Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you're here. I'm so glad you're here for this episode with the one and only Jessica Holmes. Now, she is a Canadian legend. She has a remarkable CV of Canadian programming that she has been involved in as a comedian. She also has had an amazing second summit talking about her journey with mental health, emotional well-being, and continues to inspire folks all around the world. It was really special to be able to spend time in conversation with the one and only Jessica Holmes. I hope you enjoy this episode. Jessica Holmes, welcome to Life by Design. I'm just so excited that you are here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. And you and I have only worked together a couple of times, but I'm just excited to get a little Robyne time. So I love that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now, Jessica, you are, in my opinion, a Canadian legend. Like, you are funny, you are wholehearted, you talk about big ideas in such a fun but also tender way. I'm such a huge fan of the work that you do. So for those who are like curious about like, okay, who's Jessica, what she's doing, could you give us just a wee bit of a snapshot of who Jessica is and what are you up to these days?
Great. So I am getting my Master's of Applied Positive Psychology. And for me, that's a big deal because I started off as a comedian. I was on Royal Canadian Air Farce, a Canadian TV show, for around a decade. And then I went through depression. And when I recovered, I felt like, you know what? I'm on stage all the time. I want to tell the jokes, but I also want people to know they're not alone and that I find any recovery just so miraculous, so wonderful that I felt like let's talk about that. So now I combine comedy and well-being in these mental health keynotes.
Yeah. And you do it beautifully. Like, I have had the opportunity and the privilege to be in the audience. I see how you take people on this journey. And it's just remarkable how you are able to, again, really tackle big topics with mental health, but also talking about how that joy and our ability to be able to laugh is so important in our recoveries and our ability to build good days. So again, I'm just so excited to hear about that. And the fact that you're pursuing that even further with your post-secondary, like, that's just a remarkable piece of the puzzle that's all coming together to be of good for others. So it's just so cool, Jessica. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. And do you know what? I love that you described me as wholehearted. I think that's how I feel. I think that is how I feel. My cup feels full, and it's because, as you put in the work, and eventually there's a return on investment, and so I'm really grateful to be described that way. Thank you.
Oh, well, they're very welcome. Okay, so Jessica, the big question that I had for you is, one of the areas in the framework I use on human resiliency is the part of humor. That humor is part of what we can use to build a strong foundation. And out of all the pillars, so there's 5 in total, I'll tell you the one that I get a wee bit of pushback on the most is humor, where people are just like, things are heavy, things are hard. Like, what are you talking about that we need to cultivate practices of joy and merriment and play and wonder? We see it in the research, Jessica. We see that, we know that this is part of how people can be well. How do we find that place when people, because the big question they ask, Jessica, is they feel really far away from those feelings of joy and play and merriment and laughter. And as far as I'm concerned, you are the queen of those areas. So where do we start if we're feeling a bit disconnected from those things right now in the world?
Absolutely. And you make a great point. I had to take the word comedy out of my keynote and even out of my title, because people were saying, no, we want something serious. And I'm like, it is serious. The research is there. There's science behind it. But what I do now is I just sneak it in. I come bearing research, and then we also happen to throw a lot of comedy in. And so for the research that I've done shows that when we can interpret life
Yeah.
comedically, then we see the stressors in our life as separate and outside of ourselves. So instead of feeling like I am under this mountain of stress, it is part of me, it is in me. If we look at the stressful situations, for example, to say, I'm having such a terrible week at work. If this week was an episode of The Office,
Yeah.
what would Jim be doing? What would Pam be doing? What would go wrong? How would Michael react?
Yeah.
Or if my favorite thing to ever do is Google whatever the issue is that's stressing you out, plus comedian. And then you get this professional comedian's take on your
Yeah.
issues. And so there are little tricks to do in order
Yeah.
to see things a bit more comedically.
Yeah.
And what the science says is it stops the stress from being in you, on you, around you, and just lets you see it as an event.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still stressful, but it is something you see now, not something you are.
Yeah, I love that explanation. And again, it's this idea that we're not discounting it. We're not minimizing it. We're not trivializing it by any means. What we're doing is just putting some guardrails on it. So we don't kind of, it doesn't like, again, as you said, like it's not in us. We don't feel stuck. We don't feel trapped.
Mhm.
And as soon as you gave that example of like, what would this be if it was an, episode of The Office? Like
Yeah.
already your body starts imagining, right? You just start laughing, a lightheartedness to a very complicated situation, likely.
Yeah, oftentimes just sharing what has happened to you in a
Yeah.
slightly exaggerated way,
Yes.
that is even the start of being funny. And you do not have to be a funny person. You can be chronically unfunny and
Yes.
still reap the benefits of humor. For
Yeah.
example, just signing off your emails with one line from a great comedian. My
Yeah.
favorite one is Stephen Wright's line, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving definitely
Is
isn't for
not
you.
for you.
And
Yes.
so it can even just be appreciating comedy
Yes.
from other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I really love that you're just kind of like tapping into just like these are little experiments, right? Like we're just kind of tapping into little experiments. We're not trying to fix the whole situation. If
Yeah.
anything, and what we see in the research on the resiliency is it offers a reprieve, right? Just for a
Mhm.
moment, just for it to lighten and the grip isn't as tight. So again, when you're thinking about the kind of how we expose ourselves to like being able to be open to trying things like, adding a new signature line or to imagine something in a different way. If folks are like, oh, I'm not a very creative person, or like things are too heavy, we know stress decreases the aperture in which we see the world.
Mhm.
What are some other things, Jessica, that people can think about or perhaps try? You already have a wealth of ideas you shared with us, but I'm just so curious. I'm like, okay, tell me more. Tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, we in the comedy industry, we say
Yeah.
tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Yes.
So if you're in the thick of it, if you're mid tantrum, if you're mid meltdown, that is not necessarily for me. That's when I love
Yeah.
making a joke, but
That's
I get that that is
fun.
inappropriate and that is not for
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah.
So when you wait a little bit of time, like the example I give is if you have lost someone near and dear, don't put googly eyes on the casket. Like
No,
this is not
absolutely not.
us looking to have a laugh in the deepest moment.
Yeah.
But when enough time goes by where you feel like you're with someone that you trust and you care
Mhm.
about, talk about it and talk about it in a way that is a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah.
Another thing to do is to make plans to just watch comedy, make
Mhm.
plans to do something funny, make plans to do something that is fun with other people. At Loma Linda University, they discovered that even just the anticipation
Mhm.
of laughing with someone else,
Yeah.
that is enough to start your resiliency
Yeah.
going and to put out some happy hormones.
Yeah.
And so what I love about that is you could just say, you know what, I'm on Sunday nights, I'm having some friends over to watch a comedy, and then you
Yeah.
know your week is going to be better.
Yeah.
Or what I do with my friend group is once a year we have a regift party
Okay.
where people bring things that, every year there's a theme. Sometimes the theme is like my in-laws don't know me at all, or
Yeah.
um when will I learn, or
Yeah.
or themes like that. And I like it because people sort of do mention it throughout the year as
Yeah.
it's upcoming, just knowing that we're going to take the lemons,
Yes.
whether in gift form or anecdote form,
Yeah.
and then you're going to laugh about it
Yeah.
together. And you just don't feel so alone with your
Jessica,
problem.
that is brilliant. Like, I just imagine that like person, the daughter-in-law, let's say, opening something and like literally being in this moment where it's like, I have been in this family for 20 years and nobody knows me, right? They literally like, do they know me at all? And in that moment, instead of internalizing that sense of even perhaps like rejection, or maybe that feeling of defeat or that feeling of
Mhm.
isolation, literally be like, damn, I know what I'm bringing to Jessica's party and office, right? Like,
We do.
in
I
that
have a
moment.
bin where we start putting things like we're
Yeah.
supposed to show up with one gift per person, but we do a lot. And my favorite thing is we have the kids, like everyone brings their kids,
Yeah.
and they have their own kid one that was happening. And then when they became older teenagers, they were like, we want to be part of your group. So now
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
bring them in. I think it's even just from a leadership standpoint or
Yeah.
starting to be comfortable around adult standpoint to see teenagers bring their thing and
Yes.
sort of explain to this group the story behind
Yeah.
it. It's so fun. Like we have block trades and all
Yeah.
trades, and there's lots of chanting.
I love
And
that.
it's kind of taking. It's not about the gifts. It's just
Yeah.
about being together and knowing that, yeah, life's lemons are just meant to be like shared and laughed about
Yeah.
together.
Absolutely. And again, it reminds me of that classic song from the Indigos where it's like, if I'm not laughing, I'm going to cry my eyes out, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
literally like we get to have this wee bit of a choice. And there's a season for when, yeah, we do need to cry our eyes out because it's hard and it's heavy and it's scary.
Mhm.
And there's also going to be a moment on the other side of this. And I know recently I was supporting a group and they were navigating grief, which again, grief is so complicated. It rewrites us. It does not behave like any of the other emotions. And again, it was so heavy. And this moment, and again, I really felt as a facilitator, like I wanted to kind of, shift the energy, not to again dismiss the validity of what people are going through.
Mhm.
And I said, just out of curiosity, what are some of like the worst well-intended things that people have told you in your season of grief?
Mhm.
And like, I kid you not, people like burst out in laughter when they were like, oh my gosh. And then they started sharing like the worst things that people have said to them going through a grief
Mhm.
season. And what I just appreciate so much is, again, it's not minimizing it. It's like adding almost as if it's like a coping strategy to handle the hard parts with just a wee bit of relief, just a wee bit of being able to stick handle some of this stuff. And again, it is shocking what people say to people who are going through grief. Like, and again, I hold space that I appreciate that people are showing up and they're trying, but sometimes they're doing it in a way that's like, I can't believe people actually said that to you. And like they had to laugh about it because it was literally unearthly what people think helps to somebody who's going through grief.
Yeah, and I would say my biggest belief around well-being is that we just are not meant to go through hard things alone.
Yes.
And people are our biggest resources, but when we are struggling, right, our tendency is just like pull away, don't
Mhm.
show weakness, or don't burden people.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all.
Yeah.
We are just there um to be together, and I will have my turn of struggle
Yeah.
and you support me, and then you will have your turn of struggle and I will support you.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the biggest pivots in my life and in my well-being came when I did an exercise where uh, we were told as part of this meditation workshop to start making a daily list of people that we love, people we care about,
Yeah.
and what we care about in them. And it changed me from the scarcity mindset of who loves me, who are the people in my
Mm.
life, to who do I appreciate, who do
Yeah.
I love, what do I love about them. So not only did it give me a sense of security and abundance in my life, but I started interacting with people differently
Yeah.
because I showed up with joy and appreciation for
Yeah.
these people that I normally might have taken for granted, or might have
Mm.
felt like, well, when's the last time you did something nice for me? And now I'm now I'm coming to them and being like, I love all the things you do for me.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
comment that I get, I'm just going to go ahead and share this because
Yeah.
this is what we're here for.
Yes.
Um, I get the comment a lot of, you just make me feel happy. And
Mm.
this is from people that I've known for years, but
Yeah.
I'm noticing ever since it's doing that exercise a couple of years ago that that is the effect I have on people.
Mhm.
Some people,
Yeah.
many people don't like me,
Yeah.
but we are not everyone's cup of tea. But the point is, when you show up with love and
Yeah.
appreciation for someone, it makes you feel like you're coming from a place of abundance and that
Yes.
your cup is full. And so I love people more.
Yeah.
I love
Love
people
it.
so much since I
Yeah.
started doing this list, and I see how they're valuable in my life, and that I can be there for them and they're there for me.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And from the psychology behind that is like when we are kind of inviting that thought of a loved one, what happens is our body, our natural pharmacy is just boosting that oxytocin, right? It's that love
Mhm.
hormone. All of a sudden, we're like priming the pump for goodness. And we know people can activate that oxytocin release when they look at a picture of a loved one or they even
Mhm.
imagine an interaction with that person, or something, even if you had a really amazing holiday and you're just like thinking about that time when you were with those people that mattered most to you, it actually
Mhm.
releases the oxytocin, even to the point, Jessica, when if I, similar to you, we travel quite a bit with our work, and I feel like I have this magnet for attracting anxious flyers. Like I've just brought it somehow. I have like put it out there that like I can help people navigate anxious flight,
Mhm.
which was kind of interesting because I at one point was an anxious flyer. So I feel like I see it, I recognize it probably more because I've been there. And anyway, and one of the first go-tos when I see somebody like really going through it next to me on the plane, I'll be like, I'm like, dogs are cats, like dogs are cats. And,
Oh.
and then I'm like, do you have a picture of your dog? And like, we can literally be like, no, nothing will be served. Everybody's in seatbelts this entire flight. But as soon as they whip out their phone and start showing me pictures of their dog, and I'm asking them questions about their dog, like, I mean, like, okay, what were they like as a puppy? What was training like? Like, I'm literally just getting them like dripping with oxytocin. And what the research shows and what I see in practice is that when you are in a state that's fused with oxytocin, like your body isn't even registering the turbulence anymore. Right.
Mhm.
So again, just having people tap into that place. And if you imagine, that's how you're starting your day, right? Like
Mhm.
you're absolutely using your natural pharmacy to be able to prime the pump for joy, for love, for goodness. And then when you see that person, like your body's going to all of a sudden be activated in such a beautiful way. And
Mhm.
if it's okay, just for a second, it reminds me of like, when I'm talking to teams and groups, especially high performers, busy people, I talk to them about like, how you show up at the end of the day, like how you reunite with your loved ones is so critical. And so, if you walk in the front door and the first thing you say is, why is the recycling box not out? Or how are you possibly in the same position you were 6 hours ago when I left? Right. Like if we come in critical, right, is not really going to set the tone very well for a lovely evening. But if you imagine, if you're thinking loving thoughts about those persons and then you walk in the door and you see them, that conversation is going to look really different.
Oh, absolutely. I have to be intentional about things because my mind is always like
Yes.
5 steps ahead, just trying to Tetris things into my life.
Yeah.
And so I normally wear a bracelet that has two of my signature strengths on them, which
Yeah.
is humor and kindness.
Yes.
And I often look at it like if I'm going into a new situation or when I show up on one of the team sports that I play,
Yes.
I look at it and I just go, okay, the best I can do in life, the most I can offer, the greatest joy I can feel is when I put fun and kindness into things.
Oh, I love that.
And setting that intention, whatever people's values are or
Mhm.
special traits are, like make that your thing that you go
Mhm.
to before you show up. And it just changes
Mhm.
how you experience the thing. And here's something like even coming to this podcast today. So you and I are often in competition for work. We wouldn't
Sure.
know it because we
Yeah.
have, our teams are the ones who are doing it. But
Yeah.
I could very easily see you as my competition. I don't want, I don't want to look dumb compared to Robyne. I want to make sure that I'm funny or
Yeah.
I could come into it like that, or I could come into it as I did and say, I really, these are the things I really appreciate about Robyne.
Mm.
And I'm coming in here in the spirit of fun and
Yeah.
kindness. That's the best I can do.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's the thing that I love about seeing you when we
Mm.
do run into each other. I think we're both coming from a place of open heartedness
Yeah.
with each other and supportiveness, and
Mm.
it changes our interactions. And then
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's very generous of sharing. And just so like I love seeing good people win. Like, it's literally my favorite thing is good people win. And even when our family's a huge sport family, Jessica, and like literally as soon as we sit down and we're watching a game, I'll go to my go-to Hunter, my oldest. He's like my go-to for this. And I'm like, tell me a story about someone. And he'll be like, Mama, this guy here. And he'll give me this backstory because Hunter is just like ridiculously well versed in it seems like everybody in sport. And he'll be like, okay, this is the underdog. This is why you're gonna love this guy's story. Even to the point where he's like, you know what, this guy, Mom, he's wearing pink cleats. He does that because his toddler couldn't recognize who he was on the D line. So he wears pink cleats. He gets fined every week that he does that, but he does it because he wants his little one to be able to point him out when he's playing Sunday, Sunday night football. And so I'm like, well, now I am cheering for that team, right? Like I literally love stories. I love stories of people who show up and I just love watching other people win. And again, all the way back to good old Zig Ziglar. I wish there were more cassettes in business of Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you remember like the audio cassettes of Zig Ziglar, but it's one of those things is you can have everything you want as long as you're willing to help other people get what they want. Right.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful.
I love that as, thinking about the work. And another piece too, Jessica, that I also see is that like you operate from that place of abundance and there's plenty to go around, right? There isn't a scarcity in our work. There's plenty to go around.
Well, and I think once people start to experience life that way, you realize you're energized by doing the thing you thought would be depleting, like
Yes.
giving to other people, being kind to other people. A lot of us shy away from that because we're like, I'm just tired. I'm just focusing
Yeah.
on my life. But using our signature strengths, our
Yeah.
special traits in service of other people, even if it's just as simple as, if I think something nice about you, I'm going to say it.
Yes.
It takes one sentence.
Yeah.
Then you are energized by having been kind to someone, and that person is energized. So it's such a win-win.
Mhm.
And then it becomes, it has a snowball effect
Yeah.
where I, like within a while of doing this, I feel wholehearted. I
Yeah.
have never been wholehearted
Yeah.
before in my life, but suddenly, trying to love people more, appreciate them more, that is what changed it for me. And you know what? I want to circle back. You were talking about your son and having special moments with him. So part of my degree is studying appreciative inquiry,
Yes.
which just means you're asking questions about
Mhm.
what already works.
Yes,
The great
exactly.
news about it is means doesn't cost any money, doesn't take any extra time. These are things you already have had in place, you
Mhm.
already have experience with. Which things make you feel good? How do we do more of them? And so I've used it in my marriage to ask, hey, when are my husband and I at our very best? And the
Mhm.
truth is, we're at our best together when we're outside of the house,
I love
when we're
that.
like getting groceries, when we're
Yeah.
and we just never made the time for it because we always said, oh, there's no point in both of us going.
Yes.
But the whole point of
Yeah.
marriage is that both of you,
Mhm.
do the things that fill you up. But I did it with my kids once where I asked them, what is your favorite thing that I do with you?
Yes.
And their answers both surprised me.
Mhm.
And my son's answer was he loves waking up in the morning. And I have all these antique teacups that I
Mhm.
do, and I make herbal tea every morning.
Mhm.
And so when he comes to the table, I just find it fun. I pick whatever cup I'm in the mood for and put it there and pick the tea I'm in the mood for. And he said, it just feels really nice to kind of show up and feel like my mom did this nice thing for
Yeah.
me. And again, it's a 5-minute thing just in the morning, but how would I possibly know that was a really special time of his day when he
Yeah.
feels, loved and cared for, and that's our ritual.
That's a little
So
practice. Mhm.
I'm so in favor of just our kids have the answers so
Yeah.
often, and just asking them, what is something you wish I did more with you?
Mhm.
Or when I'm at my best as a mom,
Yeah.
what does that look like? What am I doing when I'm at my best as a
Mhm.
mom? And my eldest child's answer was, it's when you're not rushed and you're at the dinner table and you just start telling us stories. And
Oh,
again, like, I assume my teenagers don't want to hear my stories, but that's your favorite thing that I do with you is pretty cool. And so we don't know unless we ask,
yeah.
what do our kids need from us? What would they like more
More.
from us? Because
Yeah.
oftentimes what we think they need or
Yeah.
like is very different from what they need and like.
Yeah. Oh, I love that suggestion. And as somebody who's used appreciative inquiry and research before, like it is, I just love even watching the unlock that people have when they start to come upon those knowings, right? Like all
Mhm.
of a sudden, as you said, it's already something that it's accessible to them. Like again, when I'm at my best, what does this look like or what's possible? And again, I also just really appreciate that distinction that we don't want to assume because we might
Mhm.
not have the right information. And I even recall like when the kiddos were little and I started traveling quite often, like one of the things I would always do is would pick up like a t-shirt for them from where I was, especially if it was a sports team. And I remember one time saying to Jax, so I have the three kiddos, and the Jax and Hunter were already wearing their shirt from, who knows, it was from like, Atlanta or something, right? So they have these Hawk shirts on or whatnot. And then Ava wasn't wearing hers. And I was just like, oh, sister, like you're not feeling it today? And she's like, I don't need a reminder of all the times that you have left me. And I was like, damn. I was like, I was
Mm.
doing this gesture and the boys loved it. Like the boys were just like, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, you should see all these jerseys I'm getting from all of these different cities, from all these different, professional sport teams."
Mhm.
But to Ava, it like represented something different. And I remember that moment being like, "Girl, like thank you so much for telling me what that experience is like for you." And I said, the reality is we're in this season, I'm going to be on the road quite a bit. So like what could it look like so that way you feel supported and you feel that mom's showing up, and she's like, and then she was like, oh, don't worry about it. She was like, Mom, you don't miss the important stuff. Like you don't miss it. I'm good. But so
Oh.
my first reaction was like, damn, I'm doing so wrong by this girl. But then with that one follow-up question, she's like, oh no, I'm good. Like it's like ain't no thing. And I was like, okay, great. Because that mom moment could all of a sudden feel like, oh my goodness. And again,
Mhm.
those key follow-up questions to realize, but I don't have to fix this. Like she understands and we're on the same team. But so again, I just appreciate just that idea of showing that there's, moments of distinction even in that conversation opportunity.
Yeah, that's beautiful that first of all that you have created this dynamic where she can share with you what it is that she needs. And my thing is, especially because my kids are currently teenagers,
Yeah,
uh, to know the advice just does nothing. The advice
yeah,
demotivates them.
totally.
So instead, just asking, uh, are there words you need to hear from me? Like if
Mhm.
you're going through something hard,
Yeah,
what would help right now that I could do?
yeah.
And oftentimes the answer is, I don't know, just sit there.
Mhm. Yeah,
Or it'll be something just that I hadn't been expecting. But
yeah.
it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do as a parent
Mhm.
is wait for wait for you to come up with a solution on your own,
Yeah,
and without me giving advice. Like that was incredible for me, and part of why I'm so grateful to continue my studies,
yeah,
because what I recently learned was just giving your child advice robs them of the
mhm,
self-esteem they would have had from
yeah,
coming up with their own answer. And so I think it was my friend Allison Schaefer who
yeah.
actually told us that
Mhm.
you can't both get self-esteem from
Yeah,
from something that you motivated you for.
yeah,
It's like the motivation has to come from you, and what you can say is, terrific, how can I support you?
yeah.
Do you have any
Absolutely.
questions for me?
Yeah.
And the payoff, like I would say for sure, when my kids began thriving, it was when uh, I got that great advice from Allison, and then I started just to take a back seat. And within a month, I could just see the payoff for them
Mhm.
of the sort of light they had in them,
Yeah.
feeling that they could set a goal and accomplish it.
Mhm. They could figure it out 100%
Yeah.
because it's like sending them the confidence, right? Again, it's giving them the opportunity. And so often as parents, we jump in as rescuers versus supporters because we feel uncomfortable in the discomfort of watching our kid go through it. So we're just trying to fix it to actually get rid of our own discomfort. If we're able to hold that discomfort and presence it, but let them figure it out, and then they have the opportunity to see that they have that efficacy, that agency, that ability to figure it out, and they get the win. It's like we're delaying that discomfort for ourselves for a wee bit, but the return on our investment of
Yeah.
time and that discomfort is totally worth it. So yeah, Allison is so
Yeah.
wise when she shares those practices for sure.
And I think it's very natural because when our kids are little, we're the primary caregiver.
Yeah.
And then there's a shift that happens where you are now the supporter
Yes.
and role model.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the best you can do for them
Yeah.
at that later time. And it's supporter when invited
That's
or
right.
when requested.
Yeah.
And so I understand, but like it's hard as a parent. It's empty nesting isn't the only thing. There's along the way as a parent, your identity shifts between being
Yeah.
very, very needed in an immediate and hands-on way to being needed just as much, right?
Mhm.
We always need our parents' love, but not in such a hands-on way and in more of a let me see what I can do. Let me
Yeah.
show you what I can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone who has like my youngest is on his way to university, so I have 3 off in university come September, it's
Wow.
recognizing that like I'm like my role is literally mentor and cheerleader. Right? Like
Mhm.
I cheer even some of the most unhinged ideas. I will get behind them 100% because it's like, dude, if that's what you want to imagine or see, let's see what let's go. Let's go. And
Yeah.
I know that they're going to figure it out, right? I know that they're going to land on their feet. And I'm also very aware of the difference between like risk and danger. Obviously, if their unhinged idea is danger, it's like, no, that's not our best choice. Can we think again? But if it's like, yeah, it feels a little bit risky, but I also know that you're so well resourced, you're going to be able to figure it out. You kind of shift from, one expression I heard is like, these aren't empty nesting, it's like bird launching, right? We're like launching these
Oh.
little ones kind of out in the world. And then when you see that, I look at it at this point as like, yeah, my job as a mentor as to, again, some of that modeling, some of that guidance. But ultimately it's a cheerleader, right? It's to,
Mhm.
and be willing, cheer when they're winning, but also hold space to be able to, sometimes we cheer them up when they're having a harder go. That's my goal.
Yes,
Yeah.
learning the sentence like that must be so hard, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're going through that, as
100%.
opposed to, oh, but have you tried?
Yeah.
Oh, but
Yeah.
next year it's going to be better. Like, no, to
Yeah.
just like exist in the present moment. And so I have a sheet I sometimes give out as an activity when I'm doing a workshop,
Yeah.
and it's just called Wellness Bingo, and I filled
Yeah.
in all these different areas. But then I left some spaces blank for people to fill in, like, what are you proud of doing for your well-being? What's one that I didn't even think of,
Yeah.
but. And then just this morning, I added in one of the boxes, sometimes it's just a really hard problem to deal with.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge that this
Yeah.
is just a really hard time and that
Mhm.
there's not an easy answer
No.
or an easy out.
Yeah.
And and I like that because then it's not toxic positivity. It's
Mhm.
not like there's always an answer. Sometimes it's just hard. And I
Yeah.
was working with someone who is um, they work in law enforcement, and I was doing some work with them around well-being, and they said to me, "You're giving me all of these great pieces of advice, but sometimes there's just nothing but to feel the pain because
Yeah.
it's really a hard job and we see a
Yeah.
lot of difficult things." And I appreciated that so much. It was
Yeah.
really pivotal for me to just acknowledge sometimes it's just too hard. Sometimes it's
100%.
not time to tick a well-being
Yeah.
checklist. It's
Yeah.
time to just feel it and grieve
Yeah.
um and hold space.
Yeah, and there's a season for it, 100%. I know one of the in my books, I often kind of throw a little bit of beef at this one expression where everything happens for a reason. It's like, no, some things just suck.
No,
Like,
yes.
some things just, like, keep that on your little, like, on your paper towel or your, your tea towel in your kitchen, right? Like, as, like, a little saying, but, like,
Yeah.
no, like, this is not the case. Some things just suck, and especially working with members in the military and first responders, it's like, no, this isn't a, yeah, just go for a walk after work and it's good. It's like, no, what you just experienced, what you just witnessed, what you are a
Mhm.
part of, it's like, no, like, this literally is awful. And one of the practices, Jessica, that I use when I'm supporting people, and it comes from, again, interesting, like from parenting, is like I recall Ava coming home from school when she was in high school, and she was just like, "Mom, that was like the worst day of my life."
Mm.
And I said, "Ava, I believe you. Like, I know she's going to have worse days. And I know that day likely wasn't the worst day of her life. But in that moment, I'm just like, I believe you because I believe the feeling that
Mhm.
you are sharing with me right now that that was the worst day of your life. And I just said, Ava, I believe you. And I said, is there anything I can do in this moment that wouldn't make it worse?
Mhm.
And then she was like, you know what? Taking the dogs out wouldn't make it worse. I'm like, cool. Let's take these puppies for a spin. Right. And again, recognizing that I'm not trying to fix it. I'm not trying to rush her through her big feeling. It's just that
Mhm.
recognition that some things just suck. Some things are just awful. And
Yep.
having somebody believe that this feels awful in itself is actually showing up for them.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's something I think we can do for one another. And then there is also seasons of opportunities when our feelings are validated and acknowledged and processed and metabolized. There's more spaciousness for the joy, the fun, the play, and the
Mm.
merriment. It's all part of how we can show up wholehearted. So, Jessica, out of just total curiosity, when Jessica's looking for like comedy or things that light you up and fire you up, like, are we like watching episodes of The Office? Like, where is Jessica going for some of that joy and comedy? Just for some of us who are looking for more of it, where can we start exploring it?
I have always found movement to be the greatest catalyst for joy.
Yeah,
So just physically leaving your home, being outdoors, even if it's not in nature, just
yeah,
being outside, uh, just changes my attitude. And then
yeah,
I'm more easily able to enjoy things and more
got it.
looking for the funny. I also have something I call a funny journal. It's just the notes app on my phone at this
Yeah,
point, but I mark down things that might have been cringeworthy in the moment,
yes,
might have been silly. And then when I read them over later,
yeah,
I love it. My kids will sit down with me and we'll read the different
yeah,
things that were, cringy in the moment, but now they're entertaining.
yes,
And I'll give you an example. I've been doing a bit of research around how people who are quite elderly often feel invisible,
yes,
often don't feel included, even when they're physically in the space. And so I just thought, you know what? From now on, when I go to my local grocery store, I'm just going to be a little more mindful of that. I'm
mindful.
going to smile at people,
Yeah,
maybe not wear my AirPods the whole time,
yeah,
and I'll show patience and a bit of friendliness.
yes,
So the first time I did that, I'm at the checkout and there's a woman in line behind me and she's quite slow getting the coins out
yes,
of the purse and stuff. And she looked up at me as sort of apologetically, like, sorry, I'm trying to get my stuff done. And I just smiled at her
yeah,
and said, hi there. And she kind of lit up. She seemed so happy. And
yeah,
she looked down at my groceries and I had this big salmon steak
yeah.
that was wrapped up. And she reached over and pressed her finger into it and said, it's fresh.
Oh,
And I was like, I just smiled, but in that moment I was like, that was not the intention that I was trying to put out. But I thought it was so cute that she was so happy and thinking, what's a nice thing I can do for you? I'll test whether or not the
your
fish you're
salmon
buying
is
is
good.
fresh. It was so great. So like
Yeah,
that is a story I share around the table
yes,
that night. And that is something that just goes on my little funny list. The things that make me laugh in the moment. And what I noticed was when I started keeping track of those things, I just started noticing them more in
more.
life. So now when I'm out of my home, I'm just looking for the funny.
Yeah,
And the funny presents itself. And
always.
like I said, it's always a snowball effect of you
Yeah,
going, oh my gosh, looking for the funny made me feel happier. That
yes,
seems to help me engage more with people and have better relationships. And
yeah.
it just feeds on itself. So I'm always looking for the funny.
Okay, Jessica, I love that. And again, if I could just add a little piece to that, with the new book on hope, that's literally one of the scientific practices of hope. It's like you choose hope and then you see hope and then you share it. And so I am always on the lookout for like hope filled moments and like literally just looking around, seeing what's possible. And it's like as soon as you start looking for just those little moments that give you just that little bit of dose that, hey, you know what, humanity, we're going to be okay, you just like it's like they're everywhere. Like they're absolutely everywhere. And I can tell you just super briefly, and I've shared this story before in the podcast. I was on a flight from Vancouver to Toronto, and this elderly gentleman got on the plane, and oh my gosh, Jessica, like he looked so dapper. Like he was like
Hmm.
three-piece suit, even how he was carrying his suitcase. Like the kids would say he had aura, right? Like this guy just was
Oh,
like so distinguished. And he sat down, and there was this older woman who was already sitting next to him. They weren't traveling together, but she was already sitting. And then she turns to him and she's like, "Oh, you look so handsome." And I was like, "Shoot your shot, sister." Right. Like I was like Care Bear staring all of the like anything to be like, "Oh my gosh, this could be a sweet little moment." And then the woman asked the gentleman like where he was going to, which I thought was funny because we were all on a flight to Toronto, but yes. Okay. And then he said that he was flying to Toronto to see his daughter, and he was going to meet his granddaughter for the very first time and wanted to dress for the occasion. Like I literally was bawling, right? Like literally, like I was bawling, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I could have been in that moment with my noise canceling headphones, already with my nose in my reader, and like just not even paying attention. But when we're in seasons of transition and movement and things like that, if we just like, you're in the grocery store, like as you're saying, you're looking for the funny, and I'm over here looking for the hope. And once again, there is so much of it to be found.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the act of being aware of it and open to it.
Yeah.
You do notice it more. And I know there's so much in life we can't control. There's so much that is beyond our power to influence. But our experience of it, part of our experience of life, is within our grasp. And what I love about it is it takes no extra time or energy to just notice.
Yeah.
To just, if you catch yourself ruminating on something nasty, like even with my kids, when my kids were little, if they would start ruminating, I'd say, "Oh, quick, what's the best stuffed animal?"
Yes.
And then they would just be like, "It's this one." And like, we would just quickly change the subject to something that I know is happier for them. And I do that for myself quite often.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that season of parenting where you're like barely holding on, you're trying to keep it together. And then somebody asks you like, what's your third favorite animal? Right. Like those are the parts of like childhood that I actually like. I have loved every season that my kids have navigated, but I tell you, I do miss some of those, like those kind of like pattern interrupt kind of question. Like, Mom, what's your fourth favorite color? Right. Or like, those are the ones that I should circle back to my kiddos and find out what their third favorite animal is. Maybe. Yeah. Jessica, do you have a third favorite animal?
Orcas.
Oh, I love that you knew that's your go-to 3. I love that. Oh my gosh, Miss Jessica, thank you so very much for just bringing joy to our conversation today. As soon as I saw your face, I was so excited. I felt it in my body, and I just appreciate you and the work that you're doing. Your work is so impactful. And thank you. And we'll make sure in the show notes to include all of the information on where people can learn more about your work, know how to bring you in so they can get you on those stages and in those rooms and spaces so you can continue to shine so bright. So Jessica, thank you.
Thank you. And Robyne, I thank you for not only inspiring me in my career, but also just the knowledge and wisdom that you impart consciously and subconsciously. It goes into my life and my thoughts and how I do things. So I really, really appreciate you. And thanks to whoever's listening.
Yes, we appreciate you for listening. Jessica, enjoy your day.
Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.